All right, all right. What an introduction. I mean, Franklin, I really like you are the technologist, you are an inclusive leader, you are focused on D&I. You told us a little bit about your journey. So why don't we just delve into that first part? Tell us about your journey and how you got into tech.
Well, first, I want to say one more time, thank you for my Comcast family for nominating me for the award, and then continuing to push me and put me in opportunities where I can meet more folks and say thank you one more time. Look, I'm one of those lucky individuals, I have to say, and the reason I'm here today is because of some opportunities that came my way. And I took full advantage of it. When I was in Jamaica, right, I came to this country not knowing what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be, but my parents wanted to give me an opportunity to do something and do more, okay? And that was always in the back of my mind, even at a young age, right? So when I started packing bags in supermarkets and across the street from the house so I can gain some money in my pocket because I hated asking my parents for money, it put me on this path of being self-sufficient, right? And, I grew up thinking I'm going to be a pilot. I want to fly airplanes. I put myself in a trajectory where, I found a high school in Queens, New York that, taught me how to fly airplanes. The thing that I didn't realize was I hated turbulence. So flying airplanes definitely wasn't in my path. So I immediately had to figure something else out. And I was lucky enough at this school in Queens, New York called August Martin High School that they started this thing called computer math, okay? And it was me and 40 other people who looked like me in this program, and I fell in love with it. The teacher I had, Mr. Michael Finley, okay, right? I still remember his name to this day, and it's a long, long time ago, introduced me to coding. He taught me how to code in COBOL, BASIC, Fortran 77, okay? And, by the time I got to my senior year in high school, I knew exactly what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. And it just so happens there's a school up in upstate New York had this program, called the Higher Education Opportunity Program that enabled me, poor little Black kid from Brooklyn, to be able to go to college, right, and take advantage of a place called Rochester Institute of Technology that I probably wouldn't have gotten into if it wasn't for this program. And I immediately fell in love with computer science and all the opportunities that brought to me. And that Fortran 77 that I learned in high school actually put me on the path that I would say that I'm on today, because it enabled me to, one, find a job coding while I was still in college so I can practice my art. And that Fortran 77 job actually got me my next job right out of college, because I used the things I learned while I was working part-time and going to school to be able to get my full-time job and move down this path. So everything I am today from a technologist came from what I did in high school, okay? And then where I ended up in Comcast, because that's really what the last 27 years and the things that I did, okay? It was just a dream opportunity when I finally found Comcast, and Comcast found me. Because I actually came into this industry at a time where the internet was unknown. And they tasked me and a few others to figure it out, test it, and then hope, at the time, hoping that we can figure out something that we can launch. And the luck that I had putting me in this opportunity, that we started to launch this little service called Comcast Internet. And that took me to other projects within Comcast because we were successful at launching Comcast Internet. And we went to launching Comcast Voice. We went to launching Wi-Fi. And then the last major project was Xfinity Mobile, which, put us in the mobile business. So I've been lucky to find myself in situations where I'm launching multi-billion-dollar projects with Comcast and meeting and working with a set of people that today I call my family, right? Because I had a responsibility in their lives, they had a responsibility in my lives. And to this day, we're still friends. And that includes like the vendors that I worked with, all right? So in short, where I'm at today is because of Fortran 77 that I learned in high school.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Thank you so much for bringing us to Comcast, because I want to delve deeper into that. I know that as CTO and as Senior VP of Xfinity, there were so many roles and responsibilities that helped you achieve the success that you did. When we were listening to your introduction and the attributes that individuals really spoke about you, it was about this building of teams, but also building of people, right? And so being able to bring together a number of players, right? From retail to web, to creating, to building. Can you talk about your methodology in building teams, one, and then the building of people, two?
Yeah, so every one of these projects I took on, from Xfinity Mobile, from Comcast Internet all the way to Xfinity Mobile, it was always something I had to do from scratch. We had to go launch this service. Now go launch the service, go hire these, engineers, go hire the managers, pick the vendors, pick the platform. So over these years, I had to learn how to work with HR, work with good recruiters, okay, and try to build a team from scratch. And, I always walked in knowing that, one, we can get the job done. Two, it's just a matter of how do we get there, right? Excuse me. So I never felt that we can fail at anything, all right? Now it's just a matter of finding the right team to come along and move along for the ride. And I was lucky, to be honest with you, of finding some core people that would work with me all the way through my 27 years from day one. Okay, one of them you saw was Arami Bachwe. All right, Arami and I started working together from day one, and he's been by my side, having my back, and we move on. So we leaned on each other, all right, to figure out how to make success occur. And, ego piece was never in my game. And I always try to find leaders who did not have that kind of ego, because we didn't have any place for that. Okay. But I wanted to make sure we acted like a family. Okay. We made sure we moved forward like a family. We made decisions like a family. We made, sometimes bad decisions, which I told them it's fine to make a bad decision. It's just, let's fix it. Okay. So, my leadership style was, I want to treat people the way I want to be treated. Okay. And I'm going to be fair with you, as long as you're fair with everybody else, okay? And we follow this path to go be successful. And, it was simple to me. And it's matter of fact, it just worked in that manner. When, we had clashes, we disagreed, which was fine. And sometimes I had to be a dictator because we was just taking too long to make a decision, right? But everybody understood, because ultimately it was my neck was going to get choked, and I had to go figure out what's the right way of doing things. But it was always easy for me because I always found good people to work with me. Okay.
What then becomes the foundation? The foundation for one, this confidence. I really like to say, you just never knew you were going to fail. Like, failure was not an option. Let me just paraphrase that. Failure was never an option. And a lot of times I say this because it's a mindset. Mm. I want you to talk to us about that mindset. I understand ultimately the person at the top is responsible for everything that happens. I completely get that. But this mindset, especially in the tech space where it's very experimental, right? We're going to try this, and then if it doesn't work, we move on to the next thing and we try. So it's this puzzle that you're trying to get. But talk to us about this mindset that, one, failure is not an option, because a lot of times that could be seen as a person who could be bullish, or a person who may want to get their way. So let's delve into
that. All right, it's the Brooklyn in me. Okay, all right, so let's check that box. All right. And look, I grew up in a situation where you had to be successful, okay? Because the alternative was, to be honest, jail, okay? All right, so the minute I knew that I can get things done, okay, all right, I stepped into that role and constantly look for things and projects that could stretch my knowledge base, all right? So one, it's technology. There's always a solution. It may not be the right solution, but there's always a solution. So I always walked in with that mindset. so that I never had to worry about the fact that, is it going to be tough? Yes. Are we going to get it done? Yes. Right. So I just always had that mindset, to be totally honest, so I put it back to the Brooklyn in me.
I like that. I like that. So let me now we're getting a lot of questions. Thank you, everybody. You know the drill. Give us the questions. So Angela asks, how did you manage to be the most direct, bold, and result-oriented leader while being so well-liked? What helped you ignore peer pressure and relentlessly protect minority leaders when you are under pressure? Loaded question.
Yeah, well, as you can see, I smile a lot, right, and that always takes people off their guard, right? So I always walk in that jovial mindset or that jovial face to say, hey, let's figure this out, all right? So that helps a lot, and it takes the pressure off of folks that, it's not that serious, but even though it is that serious, that we need to get this done. So that helps from, keeping, breaking the ice with some folks who are all tense about trying to get stuff done. All right. But, everybody has a job to do. All right. And I try to make sure that everybody knows what that job is, because I always look at it, so here's the destination we got to go. And we sit as a team and we talk about that destination, and we talk about the projects, and we talk about the things we got to get done. So it's not a surprise to anybody. All right. If the organization is changing another direction, I also sit in the same room with everybody and say, this is the new direction. Like it or not, this is what we have to go do. Get it off your chest. We can sit in this room and just talk about why we shouldn't be doing this, but this is what we got to go do. And we move along. Right. And people appreciate when you're direct. Right. And people appreciate when you're not, lying to them or making some stories up. Right. And saying, okay, it's because, no, this is the reason why we're doing this. Okay. The budget's getting cut. We have to go make these other decisions. Okay. Let's sit down and come back with a plan and let's go execute. All right. And it just, I don't know, people just like that part of me. And obviously I keep smiling at them while I'm telling the bad news, and that keeps everybody happy.
Yes, Angela, did you get that smile while you deliver the bad news? No, I'm just kidding. But I think what you're really speaking to is directness, could also be phrased as transparency. People appreciate transparency and openness from a leader, because then you can move forward when everybody knows what's going on. So thank you for that, Franklyn. Let me get another question from Jonathan. Thank you, Jonathan. It says, what advice would you have for a student graduating from high school today who wants to build software, given that AI promises to disrupt or at least change that as a career path?
Learn as much as possible, because you really don't know what you're going to be. Okay. So yes, AI is the big buzzword and everybody's talking about it. Go learn it, right? But also learn all the fundamentals of computer science, coding, okay, to make yourself better, because you really don't know what that first job is going to be. You probably never do anything with AI, okay, right? But making yourself better and stronger by learning different things, okay? And it's also not just being focused on technology, because look, I minored in psychology when I was in college, right? And it was because I wanted to do something different besides sitting and coding all day, right? But it also helped me relating to people and learning how to talk. I wrote a bunch of papers. I sat in front of rooms and talked to people, because all those strengths are things that you would realize later on that you need. All right. So be flexible and go learn. Right. And don't worry too much about, am I going to be an AI analyst or I'm going to be a coder? All right. Because the world is going to change between now and that point when you're actually working and doing things.
Great advice. Great advice. I have a question from Michael. Michael, good question. He asks, was it always that Comcast tapped you for all these opportunities? How much did you have to advocate for yourself to get yourself placed in these positions?
Success, it opened the door for me, because, after we launched the internet, we had to go do voice. And I was lucky enough to be in a strategic role also while doing this launch role. So most of these new projects I would get, but there are some projects that some folks, came and recruited me, like the mobile project. I was recruited to say, hey, come on and do this project for us. All right. But if I failed these other projects in the past, they probably wouldn't have came knocking on my door and said, can you do this, right? So success obviously opened the door for me, okay? And, I knew many of the leaders, so it was always easy for me to go to their, knock on their door and say, okay, what's going on, all right? And vice versa, all right? So, but if I wasn't as successful as I was in the previous projects, I probably wouldn't be getting these other opportunities that came along over those 27 years. All right. So success obviously drove me getting the access to some of these great projects.
Oh, I like that. Success begets success. And
Right.
because you did that, you had a track record. But what I also like is your relationship building allowed you to be able to be in spaces where you could ask what's going on. So again, just want to extrapolate that in addition to being successful, you have to develop those relationships along the way so that people know that you are there, and then they can speak of you, about you, and for you, and
Exactly.
it opens more doors. So just wanted to emphasize that. So let's talk about the 25. I was blown away by this number. I am in awe, everybody. Franklyn holds over, not just over, 25 US patents. Can you discuss some of your most notable inventions and how they have contributed to the advancements in our industry?
It's interesting because many of those patents were ideas that we generated because of projects that we were doing. All right. And we figured out a better way of doing some of these projects. But many of the patents didn't go nowhere. They were just great ideas that from an innovation perspective, but it was hard to launch. All right. I actually would have had more patents if we would have focused more in like the first 5 or 6 years where we were launching broadband on what else we could have done with broadband that, we didn't do. So it took us a while before the patent piece started rolling at Comcast, but a lot of the patents, to be honest with you, were patentable because of their new technology, new concepts, but they weren't something that we can launch as a service and make money off of. All right. But, I have a wall over here with all these patents that I hide in the back that, people come, because the last thing I want people to know is that this guy got all these patents and they start asking me questions about these patents. So I keep them in a corner somewhere. And the only person that I gave one of these patents to is my mother. So she has one of the patents in the Miami house that she keeps. But a lot of patents, I hate to say, never really came to fruition with some of the ideas that we put. But there are patentable ideas. You say it.
I am still in awe, hidden or otherwise. So I have a question from Holly Michelle. Holly asks, what is your definition of success?
And Holly has been my admin for like 15 years. So, full disclosure there. It's interesting because, in the projects, the success was launching that project and putting something out the door that millions of people were doing. All right. But I also saw success with some of the smart people I've worked with become vice presidents, okay, and even senior vice presidents in and outside of Comcast. So I would always take success as, we got the project done, but it's also the team and how they moved up and became executive directors, vice presidents, and so on within the company, all right, or outside of Comcast, to be honest with you, all right? So I looked at that as more rewarding to me, to be honest with you, from a success perspective, than, we launched this multi-billion-dollar project for Comcast, because, a lot of these folks, blood, sweat, and tears went in, okay, to launch some of these things. And the pride I get of seeing them be successful probably is more than, the millions of, dollars that Comcast made from launching some of these things. So to me, success is both ways.
Amazing. So I want to delve into D&I. Let's talk about the dance logic. Let's talk about your work in that space and supporting young adults to learn coding. We saw some of that in your intro, and your passion for making sure that they have the fundamentals that they need to succeed, right? So tell us about that. How we know how it began, but at least you could extrapolate a little farther. It's a very interesting story that I would love for you to share with everybody, because at least you already told me about it.
Yeah.
But it's a passion project, and tell us more about that.
Yeah. So look, I grew up in a kind of neighborhood where opportunities were hard. All right. And I was lucky enough to get introduced to something called technology and computer math. So it was always a passion from, of mine to say, how do I give back? So for years, I was teaching coding at the church from my cousin runs called Second Antioch in West Philadelphia. And about 7 years ago, someone came to me and said, hey, I have this idea. I would like to do coding for young ladies. And, we collaborated and talked for a while and said, let's do this project that we teach young ladies how to code. And Dance Logic was born almost 7 years ago. But the mix of dance and coding was to try to bring a hook to get the young ladies to join the program. And dance was the hook. Because, if you say it's just coding, you probably wouldn't get that many people joining. So the dance part was the hook to get the young ladies to join. And then introducing them to coding is opening their eyes to see there's this opportunity there. And then someone like me standing in front of them, giving them my background and saying what I'm doing now at Comcast as a senior vice president or a CTO, it showed them that the opportunity exists, right? And what you could potentially do with it, okay, with that opportunity, so the STEAM part of things, right, was always a passion of trying to help. And the young ladies, as we all know, not many young ladies are in this technology field. So bringing more women to this field and introducing them to technology was just the easy part, to be honest with you, of this. So I continue to do this to this day. We started a scholarship now in my late wife's name to be able to provide access to colleges where, the young ladies now that are going through my program for all these years some of them are finally going off to college. So we got an inaugural scholarship this year where, we're giving them a stipend on a monthly basis for the 4 or 5 years that they're in college to be able to get them to move along. And one day they could sit in, in an interview like this and talk about how they, someone named Franklyn helped them, get to the next level and become a computer scientist and a CTO at, Comcast.
I was really moved by that story, and I know you're still trying to do that even now as a retired individual. You're replicating that program. Can you tell us more about that?
So we're still pushing, but what I'm also now doing, because I'm in this retired mode, is we started something similar in Jamaica now. Obviously, being Jamaican, we wanted to make sure that we brought something there. And we started working with a community college in Jamaica where I'm bringing iPads, and we're starting to create a similar program like we did in the US. So I'm cherry picking countries that I love to go to, where we're trying to figure out how we launch something similar, where we bring iPads, bring computers, and then open the eyes and open opportunities. And, whether it's Jamaica, Bahamas, Costa Rica, all the countries that are on my list that I want to go hang out every summer and, and obviously kickstart these projects.
Thank you. I have a question from Marco. Let me see. Can you comment on the recent developments in the DEI space, especially as they relate to things like the Supreme Court's decision on affirmative action and some companies and schools reducing or eliminating relevant programs? How does all this affect, if at all, the future of current college or high school students?
Look, like I said earlier, I'm a graduate of the Higher Education Opportunity Program at Rochester Institute of Technology. And I'm honest, I would not have gotten into that school without that program, okay? And we had to even go to DC to talk to Shirley Chisholm at the time to try to keep those programs alive, okay? As you are seeing, things are trying to go backwards now. After all these years of trying to get into a positive opportunity for more minorities or more people of color, okay, to be able to get access to these opportunities that is still hard to this day for us to get access to, right? Which is also still unbelievable after all these years, okay? So you got to vote, okay? Because that's one thing we learned when we went to go visit Shirley Chisholm back then, okay? Go vote, okay? Put yourself out there, right? Because if you don't argue or don't fight for it, it's not going to happen, okay? So there's a step back that's occurring right now, as everybody is seeing from what, is going on with the Supreme Court, okay, right? And all the craziness that's happening. If you turn on CNN and, MSNBC and even Fox, you'll see that this world is obviously going upside down again, right? But you have to go vote. You have to go fight, and don't take no as an answer, okay? All right, so you have a responsibility of fixing some of these things, okay? Not just saying I'm a recipient of some of these things, which is the kind of where I'm saying also, okay? I was a recipient, I was a proud recipient, and if it wasn't for those programs, I wouldn't be here. So for you to take advantage of these things in the future, you have to go fight for it and make sure it stays that way.
Thank you. That's very comprehensive. I won't even add to that. We have a responsibility to determine our future. That's what makes us the democracy that we are.
Yeah.
Tara, you ask a good question. Tara asks, you've had a lot of opportunities to innovate and deliver. When you're deciding where to start, what are the critical things you consider?
Look, I like to do projects that are from scratch, where I can hire folks from scratch, help pick the technology from scratch, et cetera. So if it's a baked project, I don't want nothing to do with it, okay? So I always look at projects from that perspective because I like to innovate. I always wanted to innovate, and that's how I look at what projects are right for me, okay? And I was lucky over those 27 years to always find something new every 5 years, okay? All right, and obviously the last one being Xfinity Mobile. So for me, I always look at projects that I can go in from scratch with a blank sheet of paper and bring people together and go execute. All right, and that to me is the things that I personally like to do, and that's what I look for when I look at new projects.
Amazing. I want to build on that and say, with innovation comes just a lot of unknowns,
yeah.
Right? I know that when you're successful, you're given more latitude to explore, to build, and to test. But if someone is new and they're coming in with that very same mindset, what are some of the strategies that you would give them, like innovators? We talked about success begets success. At some point, you're so well established that they're like, if Franklyn wants to do it, give it to him, right? You get the yes pass everywhere because you've proven yourself. What advice would you give to individuals who are at the very beginning of that quest?
You have to have people see your vision, okay? And be almost as clear as possible about what the vision is and what are the fundamental pieces you believe needs to be there for this vision to occur. All right, like, Xfinity Mobile, all right, pick on that one, all right? So the vision was we're going to be a virtual network operator. That was the vision. We had to go figure out how to do provisioning, billing, care, okay, troubleshooting, okay, and obviously finding the people to go write the code, all right, test the code, operate the code, and fix the code when it's broken. So, if we didn't take the time and say, this is where we're going and this is the organization structure that we're looking to build, it wouldn't have been a success. And even I had to stand in front of folks and say, this is the plan. Okay, so you got to be sure about your plan, all right? And even though the plan is going to change, you need a plan. And that helps your bosses understand that you have thought this through, okay? And you're not just sitting here winging it, okay? And you got a budget in place, you got a plan about how you're going to hire, okay? All right, and you got a plan of how you want to execute. Okay. All of those things you need to be able to articulate so that the people above you can nod their heads and go, yep, he's got this. We will leave him alone to go execute, right? And then, he's going to come every month and tell us the status, okay? But he knows what he wants to get done, okay? And you got to have that as a fundamental structure for people to say, I trust that you're going to do it, because there's hundreds of millions of dollars somebody's entrusting in you, okay? And also, you owe a commitment to the people you're hiring, because their lives and family is also in your hands. Because if you fail, people are going to get laid off. Okay, so you need to make sure that you have these plans and this structure in place, and you can articulate it and then execute, obviously.
Wow, heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? What I really love about your response, and I just want to paraphrase in a slightly different way, is one, yes, heavy is the head that wears the crown. What I love about this is that as a leader, you not only do you have a plan, which I'm going to touch on in a little bit, but when you look at your team, they're more than just people. They're more than just individuals. You have extrapolated that you think beyond that, because you're like, yeah, this person has a family. And so the consequences of the outcome of this goes much deeper than maybe just saying it's successful or not successful. And I think I love that consciousness around your leadership, thinking through Rudy's saying it, responsible management, both to yourself and to your employees. I see that in the comments. Thank you, Rudy. The other thing that I really want to horn in that you articulated so well, because we've seen this before, right? Have you ever been to a meeting and somebody has a really good idea, like a problem is on the table, and they have a really good idea? What I want to spell out that you articulated so intelligently is this: become a strategic leader. When there's a problem, I want you to think through what Franklyn just told us. It's not that you just have an idea or a solution to that answer. You have a well laid out strategic plan on how you're going to address that, right? So not only this is my solution, this is how I'm going to go about it, these are the resources I need, and this is how I'm going to go about it. A comprehensive strategic vision that addresses the problem, right? I'm going to use this as a shameless plug to say the NAMIC Strategic Management Series will teach you how to be a strategic thinker, so that you're not in a meeting and there's a problem and you go, yeah, I have an answer for that. And then people say, yeah, tell us your answer. And you give a 2-sentence response and you wonder why they didn't pick your idea, right? You've got to be a strategic thinker because there's a lot at stake. And being a strategic thinker means having both a short-term and a long-term plan, and you have thought through all your resources as you bring that plan to fruition. So Frank, I just wanted to tease that out and not only tell people that this is what they should be, but to also let them know that NAMIC has a program that can help you be a strategic thinker. Because what you articulated was, when you came to the table, you had a well laid out plan, from the resources to the people, to the timeline, to everything you would need to get done. So great response. Let me see, I have a couple of questions here. Oh, Laura Escobar is excited about you taking your program with STEAM internationally, and is actually making an advocate for you to go to Ghana. So just not a question, more of a comment and an advocate. Way to go, Laura. There's a saying that closed mouths don't get fed. So there you go. Put it out there. Keep the questions coming. I think we're doing really well on time. So I kind of want to get into what I call the rapid fire part of our interview. And the first thing is, what's the one skill every executive should possess?
Oh man, you got to have empathy. You got to care, okay, about the thing that you're working on and the people. Okay. If you don't have that, then I don't know how you become successful. Okay. All right. So you got to have that. And then you got to be able to listen. Okay. If you can't listen, okay, all right, that's going to be part of your problem of being successful, because it's just you doing all the talking. Okay. All right. And then, you didn't hear what the problems were. You didn't hear what the solutions may be. All right. But, being a good listener and obviously caring, it's got to be part of your portfolio to be a good leader.
Thank you. I was thinking about the movie Oppenheimer, which I went to watch and loved, and to look at the ability for all these brilliant minds to come together, right? And be able to propose solutions about what should be used in the development of the atomic bomb. I want to use that as a precursor to this question, right? When you're talking about innovation, it's unknown territory. It's uncharted territory. It's a probably new product, right? So how did you handle disagreements or conflicts when they arose within the team?
So I didn't see the movie yet. I'm actually going Friday to go see
Oh
the
man, I am so sorry.
but but look, in the roles that I've had over those 27 years, we had constant disagreements. Okay. One time I had one of the guys that worked for me slam the door on his way out because he didn't like my answer to something. All right. And I joke with him to this day about it. Because it's just the nature of things, right? The thing is, you don't take the disagreements personally. Okay. It's a disagreement about a solution. Okay. And you're gonna have disagreements about solution because you're not the smartest person, right? And you're in a room with a bunch of other smart people. The challenge is getting to a conclusion. And that's usually where the problems occur because you got different minds and everybody's got the pros and cons, okay? And you got to get to a conclusion, right? And sometimes, yes, I have to be a dictator, right? And sometimes people disagree. But the fact of the matter is, none of these solutions end up really being bad solutions. It's just some solutions cost more than the other solution, okay? All right. So disagreements is the nature of what we do, okay? Because you got too many smart people in one room, okay? All right. You just have to get past the disagreement to get to a solution where everybody agrees. Yes, this may not be the best solution, but it's the one that we're going to go after and we're going to be successful at doing it. And if we have to change, then we'll change. Okay. All right. But disagreement is just the nature of this business that we're in, because once again, you got too many smart people in a single room, and we need to get to a conclusion so we can move forward and get the work done.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's called a pivot. I always say we'll pivot. If we get to a place, we'll pivot, right? Like be open to the pivot, right?
Yeah, be open to the pivot.
How did you approach risk management in your decision-making process?
So look, everything costs money and time. Okay. So when we looked at some solution, okay, we looked at it in a relationship to, we got this deadline, okay, which we always have a deadline. Okay. Right. Now, how do we support that deadline with the tools that we have? And sometimes it's new tools you have to put in place. So I was always open with everybody, my bosses, the people that we work with, to say, this is where we got to go, and this is what we got to go get done. Are we going to be able to get this done in the time and the budget that we have? And sometimes the answer is we need more money. Okay. And sometimes the answer is we need more time. Okay. All right. So, it's not that hard, to be totally honest with you, because it's one of those two situations where it's money and time. Right. And obviously money drives people, et cetera, right? But, if we're open and honest with everybody and we manage our timeline, and, Laura Escobar was one of those people who helped manage the timeline for me, right? We get to the destination, right? And big percentage of the time, I'm talking like 90-some% of the time, we meet the commitment that we set in place. All right. And times we don't meet that commitment is because somebody asked us to change, right? Halfway through, and we pivot. Okay. But, it's money and time, knowing, and our ability to say we can get the job done, right? If we manage our time correctly with the people and resources that we have.
Excellent response. So, crystal ball, based on your expertise and years in this industry, where is the internet going? What is the future of Wi-Fi and internet, and what can we expect?
Well, I'm retired, so I don't really think like that anymore, but that's a lie. I constantly think about these things. Right? But look, we live in a wireless world, and internet is all about speed and low latency, and it's going to always be about that, because the job that we did as a wireline provider is really about providing Wi-Fi in the home. And even with mobile, it's not about making mobile phone calls anymore. It's about mobile internet, okay, while you're not in your home, okay, which is also wireless again. So, when I talk to people now, I talk about licensed wireless and unlicensed wireless as the foundation of what you will have. But when it's all said and done, it's broadband internet to some device that is either in your home or outside of your home. Everything else is an application, right? Whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's augmented reality, whether it's virtual reality, it's all going to use one of those two last mile technologies. Okay, all right. So it's all wireless. Okay, one is licensed, one is unlicensed. Okay, all right. And as you can see, there's a lot of spectrum going in the unlicensed side, right? Because now you're talking about 6 gigahertz, right? And there's constantly going to be more because people want more speed. Okay, all right. And it's just the nature of what it is when we talk about this wireline technology. But wireless is what we, is the service now. All right. The fiber or coax that's being used to get to the internet is something nobody cares about because it's just the back end of this last mile service called wireless.
Amazing. How fast can we get?
It's gonna be doubling and tripling pretty much every year the way that the technology is moving. So it'll be as fast as the service that you're looking to use. And video, we've reached the capacity what video needs. Right? We have more than enough capacity for all the video that you want to do to your house. Okay. It's the augmented reality and virtual reality piece that's going to be interesting to see how much more bandwidth, and it's really more latency than bandwidth in this new game with augmented reality. Right. Now, I'm not a big fan because people should leave their house. Okay. Right. And all these technologies that we're talking about, AR and VR, right, is forcing you to be locked in some room somewhere, right? Instead of getting on a plane and going to Jamaica and enjoying Duns River Falls, you're going to be sitting in your house thinking that you're walking up Duns River Falls. It's not the same. Okay. Okay.
Thank you. You know what? For those who may not be able to afford to travel, hopefully they'll be doing something that allows them to do that. Let's talk about who is your favorite author and why?
I've never been one of those people who have a favorite author. I've been doing a lot of reading in this new phase that I'm in. And my books vary. The last book I just finished is Island on Fire, which talks about Jamaican emancipation, because a friend of mine turned me on to that book. And it was a very interesting read, talking about how, the trials and tribulations of 276 years of slavery to finally get to emancipation in Jamaica. I'm reading this other book called Make Your Bed, because it's one of the things I do every morning. The first thing I do is make my bed, right? And the value of being, checking that one major thing off in every day, right? And then I read a lot of coding books because I'm always looking for new ideas of how to teach coding in a better way and what projects I can do. But, my reading is all over the place. I used to love reading Stephen King, but he scares the heck out of me when I watch his movies because I don't like scary movies, but I still like to read his books.
One thing about the book, at least as a ferocious reader, that I love is I have yet to find a movie based on a book that I read were the same. I found that my imagination was way more broader, sometimes more scarier than anything anybody could produce. You know what I mean? So
yeah, like with Stephen King, I can read his books, but just can't watch his movies.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so yeah, my mind was far worse than Hollywood could remake. What's your favorite song and why? Or songs?
Songs. So I'm Jamaican, and everybody who knows me, it's all about reggae, right? So Beres Hammond is one of my favorite artists. I saw him this weekend. I'm probably gonna see him again this coming weekend. Sanchez is another one of my artists. And as you're gonna hear me talk about the artist more than the song. All right. Now, one of the things that I love is old school rap, right? So Rapper's Delight is still the best rap song ever for me with the Sugar Hill Gang, right? And then obviously the Bob Marley portfolio of everything I'm into, right? But if it's reggae, I'm listening to it. Right?
Amazing. So I have one more question. This has to do with retirement, planning for retirement, planning your life portfolio in such a way that we can all be Franklyn retired, going to Jamaica, going to see Beres Hammond. Can you talk about how you strategically map that to allow you to retire at an age where you can still enjoy many of the things you'd like to do?
So it all really started like 25 years ago, to be honest with you, where I started really planning about, what I want to do, because I actually wanted to retire like at 55, right? And it didn't happen because I took on this mobile project, but I was prepared for it because I started investing in my 401k. I started putting away almost 40% of the salary that I was making, okay? And I consciously planned when I wanted to quit, how much money I needed, okay, right? And, what I wanted to do with that, I'll figure that out. But I know I needed a certain amount of resources, all right, to be able to accomplish that. And putting money away in a 401k was one of the first check boxes. But when I did the math, I realized that alone wasn't going to be enough, okay? Because I like staying at nice hotels. I don't mind traveling first class. I really prefer to travel coach, but I do like going places, right? And I don't want to think about, is this fish worth $50 or not worth $50? I'm going to buy the fish, right? I'm going to buy the lobster. But compound interest is one of those lessons I learned from the beginning, and being diligent about putting the money away, right? And trust me, we never sacrificed all the fun things over those 25 years. We made sure we lived within our means, obviously, and we enjoyed life over those 25 years, but we put a good amount of money aside continuously, right? To be able to say, when the time comes, we can walk away and not have to think about the financial burdens of jumping on a flight on a Tuesday to go, sit in Bahamas, right? Or run down to Miami for a nice little weekend, right? Because those boxes were checked, but you have to start young. You have to be diligent about putting that money away, okay? And then you have to have a plan afterwards, okay, to say, what are you going to do with this time you have? Because you're going to have a lot of time and a lot of freedom, because not every day is Saturday, okay? And you have the flexibility to choose what you want to do on that Saturday, okay? And you have to exercise the brain. So you have to have a post plan just as much as you have this plan to get you to this situation where you're freely retired and can do whatever you want to do, all right? But I'm here to tell you that compound interest does work, okay? If you're diligent about putting that money away. And yes, you're going to have to make some sacrifice, okay? But you can also live very good, okay? Because, it's a matter of saving for tomorrow, okay? And you have to be diligent about saving for tomorrow, all right? Unless you have some rich uncle or, your mother or father is rich and they're going to leave you all this money. I did not have that, okay? Right. So I had to figure out how to save. And I was always a saver anyway, from the time I was little. I was always saving money, right? And I always put a plan together about what I want to do 2 years from now, how fast I want to get out of college, what I'm going to do. When my kids were young, I put a plan together saying how I'm going to help to pay for their college education. Okay, right. And it's the same thing I had to do about my retirement. Okay. I know when, Social Security starts. I know when I want to start my 401k. Right? Okay. All of these things is just a list with dates on them and your age and what you want to do at that period of time. And I push everybody to do that. Okay. Because if you don't have a plan, you won't be able to get to one of these destinations, and the plan will change. Okay. You just have to have a plan and go after that plan. All right. And 99% of the time, you'll be fine. Okay. But compound interest works. Okay.
Glenn, thank you for coming out of retirement to share all these amazing nuggets of wisdom with us. I mean, it has just been such a captivating webinar on leadership, on life, on preferences. I mean, I can't surmise it all, but to be able to have you come and share all the nuggets that you did, I am so grateful. I see all these hands up. Rudy, everybody's saying thank you. Hopefully you can see some of the comments in the chat. It has been a fantastic hour of learning from the fountain of Franklyn. Hopefully we can get to do this again. I love that in your retirement, you are still committed to giving back. I think that's a really noble thing to do. And again, what an amazing hour. Everybody, thank you for joining us today. We hope you found this valuable. Continue to give us feedback, everybody. We put these programs together for you because we know it's an opportunity for us to learn together. Franklyn, again, congratulations for being our inaugural Take Award winner. I am so excited to have had this opportunity to converse with you. Hopefully we get to continue doing this again. Thank you, everybody. And until next time, have a wonderful evening. Any last words?
Goodbye, everybody. And thank you very much for the award. And thank you very much for, sitting through the, this session. Much love and all the best to everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one. All right.